Kitchen duty? That's where we send the ones who can't handle real work, Sergeant Martinez laughed, not bothering to lower his voice as he handed over the assignment papers. The mess hall at Fort Braxton operated like a well-oiled machine. Its industrial kitchen humming with the constant activity of feeding 3,000 soldiers across multiple shifts. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Steam rose from massive steel vats while the rhythmic chopping of vegetables created a percussion that never seemed to stop. The air hung thick with the aroma of brewing coffee, simmering stews, and the ever-present scent of industrial cleaning supplies that marked every military facility. Head Chef Thompson ruled this domain with the authority of a 4-star general, his voice booming across the kitchen floor as he orchestrated the daily miracle of mass food production. 22 years of military service had carved deep lines around his eyes, but his movements remained sharp and decisive as he navigated between prep stations, tasting, adjusting, and barking corrections to his team of 12 full-time kitchen staff. The hierarchy in Thompson's kingdom was as rigid as any military unit. Senior cooks occupied the prime positions at the main preparation stations, their knife work fluid and confident as they processed hundreds of pounds of protein and vegetables each day. They wore their experience like badges of honor, sharing stories of feeding troops during desert storms and Arctic training exercises, each tale growing more dramatic with repeated telling. Junior staff handled the routine tasks, stirring massive pots, operating industrial dishwashers, and managing the endless cycle of serving trays that flowed through the facility. They moved with the eager efficiency of soldiers seeking to prove themselves worthy of advancement within Thompson's carefully structured system. The newest arrivals found themselves assigned to what everyone called scullery duty, the unglamorous work of cleaning, organizing, and handling the preparatory tasks that kept the operation running smoothly. It was here that soldiers learned whether they possessed the stamina and attention to detail required for kitchen operations, or whether they would eventually find themselves reassigned to other duties more suited to their capabilities. Colonel Patricia Hayes commanded the entire base with a reputation for fairness tempered by absolute standards. Her morning routine included a precisely timed walk through every major facility, including an extended visit to the mess hall where she evaluated not just the food quality, but the efficiency and morale of Thompson's operation. She understood that well-fed troops performed better in every measurable category, making the kitchen one of her highest operational priorities. The dining area could accommodate 800 soldiers simultaneously across its carefully arranged tables and bench seating. During peak mealtimes, the space buzzed with conversations that ranged from tactical discussions to weekend plans, creating an atmosphere that served as the social heartbeat of the entire base. Soldiers from different units mixed freely here, sharing information and building the informal networks that enhanced overall unit cohesion. Lieutenant Rebecca Morrison handled mess hall scheduling and logistics, ensuring that meal service aligned perfectly with training schedules, duty rotations, and special events. Her clipboard never left her side as she tracked delivery schedules, monitored inventory levels, and coordinated with Thompson on menu planning that balanced nutritional requirements with budget constraints and soldier preferences. The supply chain that fed Fort Braxton operated with military precision. Delivery trucks arrived at predetermined intervals, their contents checked against detailed manifests before being transferred to massive walk-in refrigerators and dry storage areas. Everything from fresh produce to industrial-sized containers of spices moved through a system designed to prevent waste while maintaining the quality standards demanded by Thompson's operation. Equipment maintenance represented another critical component of the kitchen ecosystem. Industrial mixers, steam tables, and commercial ovens required daily inspection and regular servicing to prevent breakdowns that could disrupt meal service for thousands of soldiers. The base maintenance crew had developed specialized expertise in food service equipment, understanding that kitchen failures created operational problems far beyond simple inconvenience. Safety protocols governed every aspect of kitchen operations, from the proper handling of industrial cleaning chemicals to the temperature monitoring that prevented foodborne illness outbreaks. Thompson had implemented systems that exceeded standard military requirements, driven by his personal commitment to protecting the health and welfare of every soldier under his care. The coffee service alone represented a logistical challenge that required constant attention. Multiple brewing stations throughout the dining area consumed hundreds of pounds of coffee beans weekly, their output carefully monitored to ensure consistent quality and availability during all operating hours. Soldiers depended on this caffeinated fuel to maintain alertness during demanding training schedules and extended duty assignments. During evening hours, when the dinner service concluded and the last dishes were cleaned and stored, the kitchen took on a different character. The harsh fluorescent lighting seemed softer somehow, and the staff moved with the relaxed efficiency of professionals completing another successful day. These quiet moments allowed Thompson to review the day's performance, plan improvements, and prepare for the challenges that each new day would inevitably bring. The mess hall had witnessed countless celebrations, farewell dinners, and emergency meal services during base-wide exercises. Its walls had absorbed the stories of soldiers passing through on their way to deployments, training assignments, and career changes that would scatter them across the globe. Within this environment of constant activity and rigid standards, every new assignment carried the potential to either strengthen the operation or expose weaknesses that demanded immediate correction. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new faces, and new opportunities to demonstrate the level of excellence that Fort Braxton demanded from every aspect of its operations. Private Elena Rodriguez stepped through the mess hall's service entrance, carrying a single duffel bag and a worn leather portfolio that had seen better days. Her uniform bore no decorative ribbons or specialized unit patches that typically marked soldiers with notable achievements or prestigious assignments. The fabric showed the crisp press of someone who maintained military standards, but lacked the subtle modifications that identified members of elite units or specialized divisions. Thompson looked up from his morning inventory checklist with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to evaluating new personnel within seconds of meeting them. No swagger in her walk, no nervous energy that marked recruits fresh from basic training. Her posture suggested familiarity with military discipline, but her presence carried none of the confident authority that experienced kitchen staff projected. When entering his domain, "Private Rodriguez reporting for kitchen assignment, chef," she said, offering her transfer papers with movements that were economical rather than sharp. Her voice carried a neutral tone that revealed nothing about her background, expectations, or attitude toward the assignment that had brought her to Fort Braxton's culinary operations. Sergeant Martinez emerged from the dry storage area with his arms full of industrial-sized containers of seasoning, pausing to examine the newcomer with unconcealed skepticism. "Another one who couldn't make it in regular duty," he muttered to Corporal Williams, loud enough for Rodriguez to hear clearly. "Bet she's never worked a real kitchen shift in her life." Rodriguez made no response to the commentary, instead focusing her attention on Thompson as he reviewed her paperwork. Her transfer documents were standard military bureaucracy, previous assignment locations, basic qualification scores, and medical clearances that revealed nothing about the circumstances that had led to her current placement. The absence of performance evaluations or specialized training records spoke louder than any written assessment. "Do you have any actual food service experience?" Thompson asked, his tone carrying professional curiosity rather than hostility. He had seen too many soldiers assigned to kitchen duty as punishment details to assume competence until proven otherwise. "Some," Rodriguez replied simply, offering no elaboration or defensive justification. Her response frustrated Martinez, who had expected either boastful claims or nervous explanations that would provide ammunition for further mockery. Thompson gestured toward the equipment storage area where cleaning supplies and basic tools were organized with military precision. Start with pot washing and basic prep work. Follow Williams around until you understand our procedures. We run a tight operation here, and mistakes affect everyone. The industrial dishwashing station occupied a corner position that offered clear views of the entire kitchen operation while remaining isolated from the main preparation areas. Rodriguez examined the commercial-grade equipment with systematic attention, running her hands along control panels and inspecting spray nozzles with the thoroughness of someone conducting a formal equipment assessment. Her movements suggested familiarity with industrial kitchen machinery, but she asked no questions. That would reveal the depth of her background knowledge. Instead, she followed Williams through the basic procedures with careful observation, taking mental notes while maintaining the neutral expression that had marked her arrival. "Hope you're not planning to work here long-term," Williams commented, while demonstrating the proper loading technique for the massive dish racks. Kitchen duty is usually temporary for people who are just passing through or waiting for their real assignments to start. The morning prep session revealed the social dynamics that governed Thompson's operation. Senior staff moved with practiced efficiency between preparation stations, their conversations flowing easily between technical discussions and personal anecdotes that demonstrated years of shared experience. They formed a tight unit that had learned to coordinate their efforts with minimal verbal communication. Rodriguez observed these interactions while completing her assigned tasks with methodical precision. Her pot washing technique eliminated every trace of residue without wasting time on unnecessary scrubbing, and her organization of clean equipment followed logical patterns that would facilitate efficient service during mealtimes. Corporal Davis paused at the dishwashing station during his break, curious about the newcomer who had generated minimal conversation since her arrival. "Where did you transfer from?" he asked, expecting the typical litany of previous assignments that new personnel usually shared as a way of establishing their military credentials. "Various places," Rodriguez replied, continuing her work without looking up from the sink. Her non-response triggered visible frustration in Davis, who had anticipated either interesting stories or obvious inexperience that would provide entertainment for the kitchen staff. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story." The lunch preparation period intensified the activity level throughout the kitchen as staff members assumed their positions for the first major meal service of the day. Rodriguez was assigned to vegetable preparation, a task that required basic knife skills but limited interaction with the main cooking operations that served as the heart of Thompson's system. Her knife work proved competent but unremarkable, producing uniform cuts that met standards without demonstrating exceptional skill or speed. Martinez observed her technique with barely concealed disappointment, having hoped for obvious incompetence that would validate his initial assessment of her capabilities. "At least she's not completely hopeless," he admitted to Williams during their shared cigarette break behind the kitchen. "Still doesn't look like she belongs here, though. Probably some desk job soldier who requested transfer because she thought kitchen work would be easier than real military duty." Lieutenant Morrison arrived for her daily coordination meeting with Thompson, clipboard in hand as she reviewed the afternoon's meal service requirements. Her attention briefly focused on Rodriguez, noting the new face without comment, before redirecting her focus to operational concerns that demanded immediate attention. The afternoon brought routine tasks that allowed Rodriguez to demonstrate basic competence while remaining largely invisible within the larger operation. She completed assigned duties without complaint or obvious difficulty, but offered no initiative or suggestions that would indicate deeper understanding of food service operations. By evening cleanup, Rodriguez had established herself as neither particularly promising nor notably problematic. Her presence added one more pair of hands to the operation without significantly impacting the established rhythm that Thompson had spent years developing among his permanent staff. The third week of Rodriguez's assignment brought an unexpected challenge that would test every assumption the kitchen staff had made about their newest member. General Marcus Blackwood was arriving for a surprise inspection, and Thompson had received specific instructions that the commanding officer preferred his morning coffee prepared using the traditional French press method rather than the standard industrial brewing equipment. "This is not a drill, people," Thompson announced during the pre-dawn briefing, his voice carrying unusual tension. "General Blackwood has a reputation for ending careers over details that other officers might overlook. Everything needs to be perfect, and I mean everything." Martinez seized the opportunity to voice his growing concerns about Rodriguez's presence in the kitchen during such a critical period. "Chef, maybe we should consider reassigning Rodriguez to storage duty for today. We can't afford any mistakes. And she's still learning our systems." Thompson paused in his equipment check, weighing the suggestion against his professional instincts. Rodriguez had demonstrated basic competence during her brief tenure, but the general's visit demanded performance levels that exceeded routine meal service. One poorly executed detail could reflect badly on his entire operation and potentially impact his career trajectory. "Rodriguez," Thompson called across the kitchen, "you'll be handling basic prep work today. Stay in the background and follow William's lead on everything. No independent decisions, no creative additions, and absolutely no interaction with any visiting officers." The dismissive tone carried clearly through the kitchen, reinforcing the staff's perception that Rodriguez represented more of a liability than an asset during high-pressure situations. Several team members exchanged glances that suggested unanimous agreement with Thompson's cautious approach. Rodriguez nodded without protest, accepting the reduced role with the same neutral expression she had maintained since her arrival. Her lack of defensive reaction frustrated Martinez, who had expected either wounded pride or grateful relief that would confirm his assessment of her limited capabilities. "Smart move, Chef," Corporal Davis commented while organizing the special serving equipment required for the general's visit. "Last thing we need is the new girl making some rookie mistake when Blackwood's watching everything we do." The morning preparation intensified as Thompson's team executed specialized procedures designed to exceed normal service standards. Every surface received additional sanitization, equipment was inspected twice, and ingredient quality was verified through extensive testing protocols. The kitchen operated with surgical precision that left no room for uncertainty or improvisation. Rodriguez worked methodically through her assigned tasks, peeling vegetables with consistent knife strokes that produced uniform results without attracting attention. Her technique remained competent but unremarkable, exactly what Thompson had requested during this critical period when any deviation from established procedures could prove disastrous. "At least she's staying out of the way," Williams observed. Martinez during their equipment setup. "Some new people try to prove themselves during big events and end up making everything worse." Martinez watched Rodriguez's knife work with continued skepticism, noting her steady rhythm but finding nothing that suggested exceptional skill or experience. "She's adequate, I'll give her that. But adequate isn't what we need when careers are on the line." The arrival of Lieutenant Morrison with updated schedule information created additional pressure as she reviewed last-minute changes to the general's itinerary. Blackwood will be conducting interviews with key personnel after breakfast. He specifically requested that the head chef and senior kitchen staff be available for evaluation. Thompson's expression tightened as he processed the implications. Direct evaluation by a general officer carried potential for both recognition and career-ending criticism, depending on Blackwood's assessment of operational excellence. Every detail would matter, from food quality to staff professionalism to overall kitchen efficiency. "Rodriguez, you'll handle dishwashing and cleanup duties while we're meeting with the general," Thompson decided. "Keep everything running smoothly in the background, but stay invisible. The last thing anyone needs is questions about personnel we haven't had time to fully evaluate." The instructions stung more than Rodriguez's expression revealed, but she accepted the assignment without comment. Martinez smirked with satisfaction, interpreting Thompson's decision as validation of his concerns about trusting important responsibilities to unproven personnel during critical situations. Maybe after today she realized kitchen work isn't as easy as she thought, Martinez whispered to Davis. "Some people need a reality check before they understand what real military food service demands." As dawn approached, the kitchen reached peak preparation intensity. Thompson tasted every sauce, inspected every garnish, and verified temperature readings on all serving equipment. His team moved with choreographed precision that reflected months of training and shared experience, creating an atmosphere of professional excellence that impressed visiting officers and maintained Fort Braxton's reputation. Rodriguez continued her background duties with systematic attention to detail that kept pace with the heightened activity around her. She organized prep stations, maintained supply inventories, and handled routine cleaning, tasks that supported the main operation without interfering with critical preparation sequences. The coffee preparation received special attention as Thompson personally oversaw the French press setup, measuring grounds with scientific precision and timing water temperature to exact specifications. "This coffee service could make or break our evaluation," he told his senior staff. "Blackwood judges people by their attention to details that others might consider minor." Martinez positioned himself at the main preparation station where his experience and reliability provided insurance against potential problems. His movements carried confident authority that demonstrated years of successful meal service under challenging conditions, exactly the kind of performance that impressed evaluating officers. "Good thing we kept Rodriguez on simple tasks," Davis commented while arranging serving utensils. "Today's not the day for training exercises or giving people chances to prove themselves." The final hour before General Blackwood's arrival brought maximum tension as Thompson's team completed their preparation sequences. Every element was positioned perfectly, every system was tested and verified, and every team member understood their specific responsibilities during the upcoming evaluation period. Rodriguez finished her assigned tasks and assumed a position near the dishwashing station, where she could remain available for support duties while staying out of the main operational flow. Her presence had become so background that most staff members barely registered her existence during the critical preparation phase. General Blackwood collapsed halfway through his second sip of coffee, his body convulsing violently as foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. The ceramic mug shattered against the dining hall floor, sending dark liquid spreading across the polished surface, while alarm bells began ringing throughout the facility. "Medical emergency in the mess hall." Lieutenant Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system as she knelt beside the unconscious general. "All personnel maintain positions. This facility is now under lockdown protocol." Thompson stood frozen in horror as medics rushed through the entrance, their equipment cases bouncing against their legs. 22 years of military service had never prepared him for the nightmare scenario unfolding before his eyes. The general had been poisoned, and the coffee service he had personally supervised was the obvious source. "Nobody leaves this kitchen." Colonel Hayes burst through the service doors, her face pale with the implications of what had just occurred. Every ingredient, every piece of equipment, every person who touched that coffee service is now evidence in a federal investigation. Rodriguez stepped forward from her position near the dishwashing station, moving with purpose that contrasted sharply with the paralyzed shock affecting everyone else in the kitchen. Her movements were precise and methodical as she approached Thompson, who was staring at his hands as if they belonged to someone else. "Chef Thompson, we need to act immediately," Rodriguez said, her voice carrying authority that no one had heard from her before. "The general's symptoms indicate aconitine poisoning, wolfsbane extract. We have maybe 10 minutes to identify the contamination source before the medical team loses him." Thompson turned toward her with confusion that bordered on desperation. "What are you talking about? How could you possibly know what kind of poison?" "Because I'm not kitchen staff," Rodriguez interrupted, pulling out credentials from her leather portfolio that identified her as Agent Elena Rodriguez, military. "Criminal Investigation Command. I've been investigating reports of assassination attempts against high-ranking officers. General Blackwood was the intended target, and someone in this kitchen is responsible." The revelation hit the kitchen staff like a physical blow. Martinez stumbled backward against a prep counter, his face draining of color as he processed the implications. The woman they had dismissed as incompetent kitchen help was actually a federal investigator who had been watching their every move for 3 weeks. "Impossible," Martinez whispered, but his protest carried no conviction. Every interaction with Rodriguez suddenly took on new meaning as he realized how thoroughly he had misjudged her presence and purpose. Rodriguez moved to the coffee preparation area with expert efficiency, her actions revealing training that had nothing to do with food service. She examined the French press mechanism with techniques that belonged to forensic investigation rather than routine kitchen maintenance. "The contamination didn't occur during brewing," she announced, using a small magnifying glass that had appeared from her pocket. "Someone introduced the toxin directly into the serving system after preparation was complete." Colonel Hayes watched with growing amazement as Rodriguez systematically eliminated potential contamination sources with scientific precision. "Agent Rodriguez, how long have you been investigating this facility?" 3 weeks of deep cover surveillance," Rodriguez replied while testing residue samples with a portable chemical analysis kit that had been concealed in her duffel bag. "We received intelligence that General Blackwood would be targeted during his inspection tour, but we didn't know the specific method or timing." Thompson found his voice despite the shock that was making his hands tremble. "You mean everything? The transfer papers, the kitchen assignment, the entire performance? As a new recruit?" "Complete fabrication designed to establish surveillance access," Rodriguez confirmed while photographing evidence with a professional camera that definitely hadn't been part of her kitchen equipment. "Your operation has been under federal investigation since the first assassination attempt failed 3 months ago." The medics' voices carried through the dining hall as they worked to stabilize General Blackwood, their urgent communications indicating that Rodriguez's rapid identification of the poison type was allowing targeted treatment that might save his life. "Aconitine has a distinctive metabolic signature," Rodriguez explained while collecting samples from the coffee service area. "The perpetrator chose it because symptoms can be mistaken for heart attack, but they made a mistake with the delivery mechanism." Martinez watched in stunned silence as Rodriguez demonstrated expertise that made his own kitchen skills seem primitive by comparison. Every movement revealed training that had prepared her for scenarios far more complex than meal preparation or equipment maintenance. "The contamination occurred in the final 30 seconds before service," Rodriguez continued, her analysis revealing details that would have been invisible to anyone without specialized training. "Someone with direct access to the serving tray introduced the toxin using a delivery system that required significant advance planning." Williams stepped backward involuntarily as Rodriguez's attention focused on him with laser intensity. "Agent Rodriguez, you can't seriously suspect that any of us would. The investigation has been focusing on kitchen staff because 3 previous attempts used food service as the delivery method," Rodriguez interrupted. "Someone with intimate Knowledge of military dining protocols has been systematically targeting high-ranking officers. Her portable analysis equipment confirmed traces of aconitine on the serving tray handle, indicating that the poison had been applied as a contact agent that transferred to the coffee cup during the final presentation. The technique required both chemical knowledge and precise timing that eliminated most potential suspects. "Corporal Davis," Rodriguez said, her voice carrying absolute authority, "you're under arrest for attempted assassination of a federal officer." Davis's face went white as he realized his carefully planned operation had been detected and documented by someone he had dismissed as harmless kitchen help for 3 weeks. His hand moved toward his service weapon before Colonel Hayes' security team surrounded him with weapons drawn. "Impossible," Davis stammered. "There's no way you could have known. You made 3 critical errors," Rodriguez explained while maintaining visual contact that prevented any escape attempts. "First, you assumed aconitine was undetectable in postmortem examination. Second, you believed kitchen staff wouldn't be systematically investigated. Third, you underestimated federal surveillance capabilities." The arrest team moved with professional efficiency as they secured Davis and began reading his rights. The kitchen that had been focused on breakfast service 30 minutes earlier had transformed into a federal crime scene with agents who had been positioned throughout the facility. During the investigation, "Your cover identity was perfect," Colonel Hayes admitted to Rodriguez. "Even I believed you were legitimate kitchen staff who had been assigned here through routine personnel rotation." Rodriguez began packing her surveillance equipment with the same methodical attention she had applied to dishwashing duties. 3 weeks of deep cover surveillance allowed complete documentation of kitchen procedures, staff interactions, and security vulnerabilities that made this assassination attempt possible. Thompson watched with profound respect as Rodriguez coordinated with arriving federal agents who began processing the crime scene with expertise that revealed months of preparation. The woman he had assigned to pot washing duty was actually leading a complex federal investigation that had just prevented a high-ranking officer's assassination. "Agent Rodriguez," Thompson said, his voice carrying newfound appreciation, "I owe you an apology for doubting your capabilities." Rodriguez looked up from her evidence collection with a slight smile that suggested forgiveness mixed with professional satisfaction. "Chef Thompson, your kitchen staff performed exactly as expected. The investigation required that kind of authentic interaction to identify the actual threat." The medical team's announcement that General Blackwood had stabilized sent waves of relief through the facility, but the kitchen remained a controlled chaos of federal agents processing evidence while Fort Braxton personnel struggled to comprehend what had actually transpired during the past 3 weeks. Special Agent Sarah Mitchell arrived within the hour to coordinate the expanded investigation, her credentials and security clearance allowing her to brief Colonel Hayes on the full scope of the operation that Rodriguez had been conducting in deep cover. Agent Rodriguez identified 17 potential security vulnerabilities during her surveillance period. Mitchell explained to the assembled command staff, "Her recommendations will reshape food service protocols across every major military installation in the continental United States." Thompson sat in stunned silence as he reviewed typed reports that documented every aspect of his operation with forensic precision. Rodriguez had recorded staff schedules, supply chain procedures, equipment maintenance protocols, and social dynamics with detail that exceeded his own administrative knowledge of the kitchen he had managed for 5 years. "She knew our operation better than we did," Thompson admitted to Lieutenant Morrison, who was equally overwhelmed by the thoroughness of Rodriguez's documentation. "Every conversation, every routine, every security gap, it's all here in black and white." Martinez found himself facing a complete reconstruction of every interaction he had shared with Rodriguez during her assignment period. His dismissive comments and condescending assumptions were preserved in official reports that would become part of the permanent investigation record. creating a written monument to his professional misjudgment. "I feel like an idiot," Martinez confessed to Williams during their break from evidence processing interviews. "She was probably analyzing everything I said and did, looking for signs of suspicious activity, while I was treating her like she couldn't handle basic kitchen work." The federal debriefing process revealed the sophisticated nature of Rodriguez's undercover operation. She had maintained radio contact with surveillance teams positioned throughout the facility, coordinated evidence collection procedures, and filed daily reports that tracked the behavioral patterns of every kitchen staff member. "Your performance was actually helpful to the investigation," Rodriguez told Martinez during their private interview session. "Authentic workplace dynamics allowed me to observe genuine interactions rather than artificial behavior that might occur if people knew they were under surveillance." Williams discovered that his casual conversations about equipment procedures and staff relationships had provided crucial intelligence that helped Rodriguez eliminate potential suspects and focus investigative resources on Davis's suspicious activities. "You mean when I was explaining how the coffee service worked, you were actually evaluating security vulnerabilities?" Williams asked, his voice reflecting amazement mixed with embarrassment. Rodriguez nodded while reviewing her handwritten notes from their interactions. Every detail about access procedures, timing sequences, and personnel responsibilities contributed to identifying how an insider could exploit the system for assassination purposes. The revelation that Davis had been planning the assassination attempt for months shocked everyone who had worked alongside him without detecting any suspicious behavior. His careful cultivation of a normal persona had successfully concealed his actual intentions, until Rodriguez's systematic surveillance detected inconsistencies in his activities. Davis demonstrated classic behavioral indicators of someone conducting operational planning, Rodriguez explained to Colonel Hayes. Extended bathroom breaks during critical preparation periods, unusual interest in officer dining preferences, and subtle attempts to modify security procedures that would create operational opportunities. Thompson requested a private meeting with Rodriguez to understand how his leadership decisions had inadvertently facilitated the investigation while potentially exposing his staff to danger. "Agent Rodriguez, I assigned you to background duties specifically to keep you away from important responsibilities," Thompson admitted. "If I had known who you really were, you provided exactly the access I needed," Rodriguez interrupted. Background assignments allowed comprehensive observation without raising suspicions that might have compromised the investigation or endangered General Blackwood. The kitchen gradually returned to operational status as federal agents completed their evidence collection, but the atmosphere had permanently changed. Staff members moved with heightened awareness of security procedures while processing the reality that their workplace had been the target of a sophisticated assassination plot. Lieutenant Morrison implemented new verification protocols for all visiting officers and special meal service requests, procedures that Rodriguez had recommended based on vulnerabilities she had identified during her surveillance period. "These changes will prevent future exploitation of dining service for assassination purposes," Morrison explained to her administrative staff. "Agent Rodriguez's recommendations address security gaps that we never considered problematic." Colonel Hayes personally thanked Rodriguez for her service during a brief ceremony that recognized her successful completion of a classified operation that had potentially saved General Blackwood's life and prevented a significant national security incident. "Agent Rodriguez, your dedication to this mission exemplifies the highest standards of federal law enforcement," Hayes stated while presenting her with an official commendation. "Your willingness to maintain deep cover under challenging circumstances prevented what could have been a devastating loss." Rodriguez accepted the recognition with characteristic humility, crediting the cooperation of Thompson's kitchen staff for providing the authentic working environment that had made her surveillance operations successful. The kitchen team's professionalism allowed me to conduct necessary observations without compromising operational security, Rodriguez told the assembled personnel. Their normal workplace behavior was essential for identifying actual suspicious activities among the staff. The formal investigation concluded with Davis's confession to participating in a broader conspiracy targeting military leadership. Information that Rodriguez's surveillance had helped federal authorities document through careful observation of his communications and behavioral patterns. Agent Rodriguez's work extends far beyond this single incident, Special Agent Mitchell announced during the final briefing. Her intelligence gathering has exposed a network of insider threats that we're now able to address through coordinated federal action. Thompson received official notification that his kitchen had received exemplary ratings for cooperation with federal investigators, recognition that reflected positively on his leadership despite the security breach that had occurred within his operation. Chef Thompson, your team's assistance was invaluable to the success of this investigation, Rodriguez told him before departing Fort Braxton. The professionalism you've instilled in your staff created an environment where genuine suspicious behavior could be detected and documented. As Rodriguez prepared to transfer to her next assignment, she left behind procedures and recommendations that would enhance security protocols while maintaining the operational efficiency that made Thompson's kitchen one of the most effective food service operations in the military system. 6 months later, the Rodriguez Protocol had become standard operating procedure at military installations across 3 continents. Her detailed security recommendations transformed food service operations from routine logistical support into sophisticated counterintelligence networks, capable of detecting insider threats before they could compromise high-value targets. General Blackwood, fully recovered from his poisoning, established the annual Rodriguez Excellence Award for outstanding achievement in military criminal investigation. The recognition program honored federal agents who demonstrated exceptional skill in deep cover operations that protected national security interests while maintaining operational integrity under extreme pressure. Agent Rodriguez's work represents a new standard for investigative excellence, Blackwood announced during the first award ceremony at the Pentagon. Her ability to maintain perfect cover while conducting comprehensive surveillance prevented not just my assassination, but exposed a network that threatened military leadership at the highest levels. Fort Braxton's mess hall underwent complete renovation, with new equipment and procedures designed around security protocols that Rodriguez had recommended. The facility became a training center where military personnel from allied nations learned advanced food service security measures that could be adapted to their own operational environments. Thompson found himself promoted to Regional Food Service Security Coordinator, a newly created position that utilized his experience working with Rodriguez to train kitchen managers throughout the military system. His first-hand knowledge of deep cover operations made him uniquely qualified to identify potential security vulnerabilities in food service environments. Working with Agent Rodriguez taught me that every detail matters in ways I never imagined, Thompson explained to groups of military chefs during his training seminars. She showed us that security and efficiency aren't competing priorities. They're complementary aspects of professional excellence. Martinez discovered a talent for security analysis that led to his assignment as Thompson's assistant in the new training program. His experience being thoroughly investigated by Rodriguez provided valuable insights into how insider threats could be detected through careful observation of behavioral patterns and workplace dynamics. I learned more about real professionalism from Agent Rodriguez in 3 weeks than I had in 10 years of military service, Martinez told new security trainees. She demonstrated that true expertise operates quietly and achieves extraordinary results through systematic preparation rather than flashy performance. The Rodriguez case study became a required curriculum at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, where agent candidates analyzed her techniques for maintaining deep cover while conducting complex surveillance operations. Her methods influenced training programs that prepared federal investigators for assignments requiring extended undercover work in sensitive environments. Williams transferred to the Tiran's Turbulum military police corps, inspired by Rodriguez's demonstration of how careful observation could protect lives and prevent criminal activities. His application cited his experience working alongside an undercover federal agent as motivation for pursuing a career in military law enforcement. Agent Rodriguez showed me that security isn't just about following procedures, Williams wrote in his transfer request. It's about understanding how normal operations can be exploited by people with malicious intentions and developing systems that prevent those exploitations without interfering with legitimate activities. Lieutenant Morrison advanced to base security coordination, implementing comprehensive threat assessment programs that integrated food service monitoring with broader facility protection measures. Her administrative skills, enhanced by experience managing Rodriguez's cover assignment, proved invaluable in coordinating multi-agency security operations. The broader intelligence community recognized Rodriguez's work as a breakthrough in domestic counterterrorism methodology. Her techniques for identifying insider threats through behavioral analysis became standard training for agents assigned to investigate potential security breaches in government facilities. Colonel Hayes received promotion to regional command, partly based on her effective management of the Rodriguez investigation and implementation of resulting security improvements. Her leadership during the crisis demonstrated the kind of calm professional competence that military advancement boards valued in senior officers. The Rodriguez case taught us that assumptions can be dangerous, Hayes reflected during her promotion ceremony. We learned to evaluate people based on performance rather than preconceptions, and to recognize that expertise comes in forms we might not expect. The Davis conspiracy investigation led to arrests at 7 military installations, preventing what federal prosecutors described as the most significant insider threat to military leadership since World War II. Rodriguez's patient surveillance work had exposed a network that might otherwise have achieved catastrophic success. Military criminal investigation procedures were fundamentally revised based on lessons learned from Rodriguez's operation. New protocols emphasized long-term surveillance over rapid response, recognizing that complex conspiracies required sophisticated investigative techniques that could operate undetected for extended periods. The training center at Fort Braxton hosted international delegations studying American approaches to facility security and insider threat detection. Rodriguez's methods influenced security procedures at government installations in allied nations facing similar threats from domestic terrorism and foreign intelligence operations. Rodriguez herself continued serving in classified assignments that prevented public recognition of her ongoing contributions to national security. However, her techniques and training materials continued protecting lives and preventing attacks through the work of agents she had trained and inspired. Excellence in investigation requires patience, attention to detail, and willingness to work. Without recognition, Rodriguez had written in her final report on the Davis case, "The most important victories are often the attacks that never happen because someone was watching carefully enough to prevent them." The kitchen staff who had worked alongside Rodriguez during her undercover assignment found themselves changed by the experience of witnessing true professional mastery disguised as routine competence. They approached their own duties with enhanced awareness of how their work contributed to larger security objectives. New personnel arriving at Fort Braxton learned about the Rodriguez case during their orientation briefings, understanding that their workplace had been the site of a significant counterintelligence success that continued influencing military security procedures worldwide. The lesson resonated far beyond military installations. Corporate security programs, government facilities, and international organizations adapted Rodriguez's techniques for identifying insider threats in their own operational environments. Her work demonstrated that careful observation and systematic analysis could detect conspiracies that might otherwise remain hidden until successful execution. Years later, when military personnel faced challenging assignments that required them to work with unfamiliar colleagues or in uncertain environments, they remembered the lesson of Agent Rodriguez: never underestimate someone based on appearances, because true expertise often operates quietly while achieving extraordinary results through preparation, patience, and professional dedication. The woman they had dismissed as inadequate kitchen help had saved a general's life, exposed a conspiracy, and created security procedures that continued protecting lives long after her assignment ended. Her legacy served as a permanent reminder that excellence recognizes no boundaries, and that assumptions about capability can blind us to the extraordinary potential that exists in unexpected places. Asterisk. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.